many of you know that God is good? Not just some of the time. Even in those rough times. You have heard the reading from the Gospel according to St. Luke, the New International Version. After Pilate had spoken with Jesus, Pilate, in a sense, says, isn't this a Galilee? He is outside of my province. He then sends him to Herod. Herod meets him, asks him the question. Herod, almost in a sense, when you read the Holy Writ, it almost sounds like Herod has been a big fan and is excited to hear and see this man called Jesus. In verse 6, he says, when Pilate heard this, he again says, is this a Galilean? When he learned that Jesus was from that region ruled by Herod, he sent them to Herod. Herod was very pleased to see Jesus. He was hoping to see Jesus perform a miracle. So Herod asked Jesus many questions, but Jesus made no answer. The chief priests and the teachers of the law stepped forward and made strong accusations against Jesus. Herod and his soldiers made fun of Jesus and treated him with contempt. Then they put a fine robe on him and sent him back to Pilate. On that very day, Herod and Pilate became friends. And prior to that, they had been enemies. I want to talk with you just briefly this morning from the subject, On My Way Up. On my way up. Let us bow and let us pray just now. Gracious and eternal God, we say thank you. God, you are certainly able in our lives. You have done so many wonderful things. And God, we're grateful for that. Now, God, as we humble ourselves before your presence, as God, we have walked into this place, and as Minister Kwan said, God, some of us have just walked into the church, but it's a whole entirely different thing when we come to worship. So God, we worship you right now in this moment. And we ask, God, that you, Lord, would touch our lives with the word of God. God, I pray that you, Lord, would allow the words that fall from your servant's mouth to fall on ground that is fertile. And God, may those words take deep root in the hearts of men, women, boys, and girls. And then at the appropriate time, at the appointed time, God, may that flower sprout up to be the beautiful flower that you so desire, that you might get the glory. God, I would be out of my head to think that I can stand here under my own power. And God, certainly I recognize my own deficiencies. I recognize, God, that I am not worthy. The longer that I do this thing, God, the more that I recognize I need you. I need you like never before. Speak through your servant, God. God, we give you the praise, the glory. Let your spirit have its way. In Jesus' name, amen. On my way up. Growing up, there were a number of television shows that I would love to watch. The Brady Bunch, the Andy Griffith Show, What's Happening, Three's Company, Sanford and Son, Happy Days, Leave It to Beaver, Gilligan's Island. These were all shows that I just love to watch. Love to watch TV. I think that's probably some of the reasons why I am like I am. But my favorite TV show was The Jeffersons. George Jefferson was an interesting character that sometimes was offensive and annoying. But to look at George Jefferson was to look at a man who was moving on up. George Jefferson had moved to the point of his life where he had moved away from Archie Bunker. You remember that? He had moved away from Archie Bunker and moved to a deluxe apartment in the sky. George Jefferson had moved to a place in his life where he had everything that he wanted. Come on now. He had a maid. He had a personal driver to chauffeur him around to the various strings of cleaners that he had, dry cleaners that he had around the city. He had all the latest gadgets. He had tailor-made suits. He had everything that he wanted. George Jefferson was on top of the world, and he was on his way up. And this may sound strange to some and odd to others, but very real in a sense, in saying that Jesus was on his way up too. Come on now. Jesus was moving in a vertical direction that on his mission he understood that he needed to do what he needed to do, that he come to the world to turn the world upside down. Jesus was moving on up. But unlike George Jefferson, Jesus, he didn't have the deluxe apartment in the sky. Jesus didn't have a maid or a butler to clean up after him. Jesus didn't have a personal driver to take him all around. But what he did have outweighed anything, any maid, any luxury apartment that you could have. Jesus had what he needed to have. Jesus was moving on his way up. What Jesus had was a Father in heaven that was able to help him and meet every need and everything that he had in his life. Since the time that Jesus was born, he was on a vertical trajectory that was heaven bound. Jesus was on his way up. And when you are on a mission from God, there are some earthly things that when you're on your way up, that you may have to give up. There may be some things that you can have on this mission that God has called you. You may think that you need a butler. You may think that you need a tailor suit. You may think that you need this. You may think that you need a deluxe apartment. You may think that you need a big flashy car or a big flashy house. But what you need is a God who can help you give direction at every point in your life. Jesus was on his way up. And in this text today that we examined today, Jesus was making his way to the cross. In particular, he finds himself before some folks that just don't understand who he is. These folks are Pilate and Herod. And I want to suggest today that there are three things that we can learn from Jesus as we make and move our way up. The first thing is brought up. The second thing is looked up. And the third thing is lifted up. Three things. When we look at this particular text and we understand what Jesus was experiencing, you are brought up. You got to look up. And then you're lifted up. Look at what the first suggestion says. Jesus was brought up. I told you it wasn't going to be before you very long. The text says that the whole group, look now in verse 1 of 23. The whole group rose up and took Jesus before Pilate, where they began to accuse him. And see, the reason why Jesus was brought before Pilate was because he was, quote-unquote, misleading the people. In reality, what was really happening was that the people were not being misled, but rather they were being fed by Jesus and being fed the truth. They were being fed the Word of God. They were being fed everything that they needed, and they had never heard anything like this. Here comes a Jesus who they had heard about, but now here comes a man claiming to be Jesus, claiming to be the Messiah, saying that he was God, and now people got a lot of problems about this Jesus. They were fed. They were fed the truth. And anytime that you begin to disrupt the status quo, anytime that you begin to disrupt the status quo of the powers that be, you're going to have some trouble. And so what did they do? They brought him up before the judge. They brought him up before the council. In essence, they brought him up in order to bring him down. They didn't like what he was saying. They didn't like what he was doing. So they took him before the very people that they thought could bring him down. You got to understand now, Jesus is on his way up. But look at how Jesus responds. As he is brought up before the council, he begins to look up. Who is he looking up to, you might ask? He's looking up to the one that brought him there in the first place. And the one thing that we must understand, and that is this: even though you may be in a tight situation, even though your back may be up against the wall, don't you give in to the haters and the naysayers in your life that bring you up to be harassed and to be ridiculed, because when you understand that you are being brought up or being brought down, that God is the one that will give you the wherewithal in order to bring you back up. You need to look up in those instances where you are being brought up. You with me? See, it is in these situations that you remember to whom you belong. You are a child of the King. You all know all this. You're a child of the King. Greater is he that is in you than he that is in the world. He is the strength and sword and your shield. He is the one that I look to the hills from which cometh my help, because I know my help cometh from the Lord. Essentially what Jesus says is, I'm not going to give you the authority to rule over me. Jesus was brought up, but Jesus looked up and said, you don't define me. You don't make me who I am. I'm not going to give you the authority to have power over me. And see, once you give into their demands, then you have become just like them. Come on now. Think of all the stuff that you've been through in life. Think about all of the people that hated on you. Think about all of the people that tried to bring you up and bring Trump charges on you. All of those moments and times, you don't need to give in to them. Because when you give in to them, you give in to their demands, instead of looking to the one that brought you there in the first place. You've got to realize that you're on a mission. And when you're on a mission, you can't be focused on what everybody else wants. You can't be focused on pleasing everyone around you. And I think that's sometimes what we get ourselves into. We want to please everybody around us. We want to make sure everything sounds right. We want to make sure everyone places where he really needed to go. He was on his way up. When you give into their demands, you then have become just like them, operating not by the Spirit of God, but you're operating out of personal desire. You're operating out of selfish desire. And when you operate out of selfish desire, when it becomes all about you, then God's business won't go forward. The kingdom won't go forward. You won't go forward. Your church won't go forward. Jesus understood that when he was brought up, they were meaning to bring him down, but when he was brought up, he looked up because he was on his way up. And look what Jesus does. Look what Jesus does. Those of you who just can't hold your tongue, look what Jesus does. He doesn't say a word. He doesn't say anything to them. In verse 9 it says that Herod asked Jesus many questions, but Jesus made no answer. What he says by not saying anything at all is that you don't define me. You don't make me. You didn't make me. You didn't make the sun rise in the morning and the sunset in the day. You didn't put the green in the grass. You didn't put the blue in the sky. You didn't put food on my table. You didn't build this house. You don't define me, Jesus says. I am that I am. I am all that God has placed within me. And I'm not going to let you get the best of me. You don't define me. You're not my God. Remember when Jesus was tempted by the devil in the wilderness? Satan offered him the world. Satan said, if you are the Son of God, and if you are the Son of God, I know you're hungry. If you're the Son of God, I need you to turn these rocks and these stones into bread. But Jesus looked at him and he says that man shall not live by bread alone. He quoted scripture. Each time the devil tempted Jesus, Jesus came back with scripture. Let me give you a little insight here. Whenever you get tempted by the devil, whenever you find yourself with your back up against the wall and you don't know which way to turn, I want to encourage you to place that word deep down in your heart. And when those moments come, God will give you some scripture. God will say, Satan, get behind me. God will say, I am the great I am. God, you need to quote some scripture. You need to let somebody know you know the word. You're not greater than me. My Father is greater than everything around here. You need to get some word down on the deep on the inside of you so that you can use to help somebody. We got so many cliches and phrases that we use. Huh? The Lord is my strength. Whom shall I fear? Huh? God is my rock, my shield, my sword, and the weary and God, his aid. Some of us, we act like we don't know the word. The minute we get out to church, we act like, well, that doesn't apply to the world. But Jesus, if it was good enough for Jesus, then it might be good enough for you. Amen. He does not say a word. Each time Jesus looked up to his Father and relied on him and not on man, Jesus makes it clear about who he belongs to. And that is God. And you will find that when you are looking up to God, you might have some hills to climb. Ain't nobody said that this road is going to be easy. Ain't nobody said that life is a crystal stair. Come on now, life ain't no crystal stair. But when you understand the wiles of the devil and what God has done to bring people into a place where they begin to understand that greater is He that is in you than he that is in the world. You will find yourself going through some dark days in your life. You will find yourself going through some ups and downs and some trials. Even Jesus had to go up the rough side of the mountain while on his mission here on earth. But I want to leave you with this, that at every turn and at every point in your journey, if you stay steadfast and immovable, that God, even though you've been brought up, you looked up, I want to let you know that when you go through your trial and your tribulation, that God will ultimately lift you up. Oh, we all have our crosses to bear. This is true. People talk about you. People will say bad things about you and put you down. Jesus was no stranger to the cross he had to bear. All the authorities had placed Jesus on a cross because they wanted to put him down. They wanted to put an end to this Jesus movement. They wanted to smear his name and smear his reputation into the ground. But oh, look, how thankful we should be, because when man put him on the cross, when the Roman soldiers put nails in his hands to bring him down, God put him on the cross to take him up. I know you might be going through some things today. I know you might be experiencing some pain in your life, but I want to let you know that Jesus went to the cross. He was put down, but on the third day, I said on the third day, Jesus, with all power in his hands, he said, no, it's not over till I say it's over. It's not over till I say it's through. It's not over. I know I said I'm finished, but it's not over. It's not over. It's not over. Because on the third day, Jesus got up with all power in his hands. You can't make me doubt it. I know too much about him. He's my God. He's my God. And I thank God for all he's done in my life. Mom and Daddy died last year. Lost my best friend. Lost my mentor. But God, ain't he alright? Ain't he alright? Ain't he alright? Ain't he alright? Oh God, lift me up. Lift me up. Lift me up. Well, wait now. Justice Rayhan Davis. He's 20 years old now. When he was 3, 5, 7, and I'm gonna even say 10, I would come home after a hard day's work, and I would be tired. And I would just want to sit down, give me a drink of water, give me a drink of soda. Don't stay with me. Stay with me. And I just want to sit down and take a load off. But here is this little boy with all kind of energy, running around. It wasn't playing before I got home, but got all his toys, brought him into the living room. Daddy, let's play. Daddy, let's play. And then we would play and we would have fun. And then he would find himself playing because I fell asleep. Or maybe I turned my back
turned around and said, I know you're tired, Daddy, but Daddy, what am I trying to tell you? That when you're tired at the end of the day, when it looks like you ain't got no other help, you don't know which way to go, I want to encourage you that there is a God who can do and look up to heaven and say, I'm me, I'm me, I'm me, I'm me, I'm Daddy, I'm Daddy, I'm Daddy, I'm Daddy. Lift your hands, lift your hands. Say, God, I need you to take me up. I need you to lift me up. I can't take it no more. I can't take it no more. So God, lift me up. I'm me. God, take me up. Take me up. I got some folks trying to bring me down. God, take me up. I got some people around me that are trying to take me down. Trying to bring me before the authorities. God, take me up. God, give me a new perspective. God, I just want to get in your arms. Because I know that in your arms there is safety and protection. There's refuge from the storm. Thank you, God. Thank you, God. Thank you, God.